Good day and welcome. My name is Max Atkins from the Connect for Climate program at the World Bank. We're coming to you live here from Viet Nam at the GEF Assembly. This is a series of discussion on our global issues, on the global commons, how we can accelerate action to help protect our global environment and to take action on climate change, on environmental pollution, and protect our biodiversity and our nature. So it's my great honor to have with me the former president of Chile, Michelle Bachelet. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you. Very happy to be with you.
And you are a wise voice on environmental protection. You've been a former leader of a country. So maybe I'd like to ask you a few questions, personal experiences on the challenges that you faced as a president to really ramp up the environmental agenda within Chile. What were the challenges? How did you overcome them? And what do you think were your successes under your presidency?
Well, thank you so much. First of all, I'm very happy to be here attending the GEF Assembly. I think it's very important that we can all share our experiences, the successes, but also the problems and challenges. Well, I have to say my first government, that was 2006, 2010, our main objective was to develop a strong institutionality because we didn't have a ministry. We had only a service of environment that has less power, if I may say, less capacities, and that also we had a law that needed to be updated because at that time there was very little time for citizens, for example, to defend their position when they were against a possible, economic initiative that they felt it was damaging their situation as communities or their environment or whatever. So my first government, we created a ministry. We had our first minister of environment. We developed we updated the law, so it will be, if I would say, more possibility for both, for the industry to defend their position, but also for citizens, for the society. And we developed a national evaluation system of environment and so on. A lot of different instruments that will permit us to do things the best possible way. And of course, we did a lot of things on regard of some projects that were damaging environment and so on. But in my second government, 2010, 2014, 2018, we wanted to go beyond that. We wanted to go further. So we had a very ambitious program on environment, in terms of course, improving regulation, laws, etc., but also in terms of see what else we could do that we haven't done yet. And what we should do is, as you say, ramp up all the obstacles that you find. So on one hand, we decided that we needed to change the culture. And in order to change the culture in terms of the habits, the consumption habits, for example, we needed to do lots of things. For example, we incorporated in the curricula at schools climate change and environmental issues, so kids that are really very keen of those kind of initiatives will be also, will go back home and have a conversation with their parents and sort of changing the culture from first ages, but also at the university level and so on. Then we had a lot of laws that we passed in terms of the car use, the woods, because in many parts of Chile we had a lot of air pollution because they used humid wood and not dry wood. And so we tried to change the way they heat, the heaters they have. We did a lot of different areas. But probably, and obstacles are always the same. One obstacle that was not at all is the citizens, because people have been getting much more aware of the importance of protecting the environment and to try to have a balanced relation between the development of the economy, but also environmentally sustainable. So, as I mentioned in my presentation today, that 93% of Chileans believe that climate change is already there, and 88%, I believe that it's human activity, the first responsibility. So it's very important because we count now with a citizen, with people who believes this, so they're willing or they will change bad habits in terms of environment. But the
and
problem
they
is,
can be leaders in their own right.
yes, they can be drivers of change. They can lead those. And they have been doing it. They have been in the streets when some things they don't like about some, some mining company who wanted to have a port exactly where there is a fantastic reserve of Humboldt penguins, and it's a fantastic reserve of biodiversity. So the people went to the streets. Our government, we made evaluation and we did not accept it. So, but I think that's the perfect combination. When you have people empowered that is committed to something, and if leaders, political, economic leaders, whoever, are not clear about things, they will push bottoms up. But on the other hand, you need leaders that are clear about it, that can also do what they need to do. Obstacles, of course, lots of obstacles. Every time you try to pass a bill that means that somebody loses a little bit of power, economic power, political power, those people feel damaged. They don't want to change things. They want to do things as usual. So it's difficult. But it's not only difficult in terms of convincing, for example, the private sector that you can have sustainable development, that you can produce richness, but it can be environmentally friendly. And we have been talking about the blue economy, the green economy, the circular economy. So there are lots of opportunities there. And I have had that experience in other areas. For example, we decided, according to the recommendation of WHO, to tax the sugared beverage. And of course, the industry felt very threatened. But 1 year later, they came back and told me, you know what? We have now other opportunities. Now we are fantastically doing with whatever zero, I'm not going to say then which beverage was it, or light, or whatever, you see, or zero sugar. So many times for the private sector, it's difficult for them to think that you can do things differently and that can be rentable. The other thing is that this also is expressed in the government, because you have many different ministries who need to work for the sector. The Ministry of Economy and Fishing, he is concerned that any measure that you do could, affect the economy, affect the fishermen, and so on. And the Minister of Finance, he wants to show a lot of economic growth. And on the other hand, you have the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Environment, or sometimes Minister of Energy can be in one or other side. So you have to sort of discuss to everyone, and you have to make decisions. What I'm more proud of is we did a lot of things, from this school curricula, we work on carbon bonds. We made a fantastic protection and preservation of national parks, and also with private parks that we were put together, and now our national parks that are the size of Switzerland in the south of Chile, and of course what we did on oceans. I mentioned today that Sylvia Earle, she's a fantastic woman working on ocean preservation. She's still diving, and she's not very young. And she said that nobody cares about ocean because they don't see what's happening. Air pollution, we all feel it, Land deforestation, we all see it. And in oceans, we did work a lot with Oceana, NAGIO, a lot of different organizations, so they help us a lot. And we decided to preserve oceans. I mean, the exclusive economic zone, when we arrived to the government, it was 4.3%. We have protected them, and we ended with 43% of all the oceans, that Chilean oceans, protected and conserved. And I think that's very good, because in some places, like in Easter Island, we will be able to recover species that have disappeared. And in some others, we'll permit that they continue, working, and fishermen can fish, but in a way that is not a damaging thing.
Damaging to future generations. Yes. And I think my takeaway there is really strong, but sensible leadership, where you have to work with so many different interest groups. And that is also a message that really is being heard a lot here at the GEF Assembly, that a lot of stakeholders are on board and need to be on board, and through partnerships we can really accelerate the actions going forward. So looking ahead at the next couple of years, what would you like to see happen? What's your message to the GEF Assembly, but also to the leaders that are advancing the accelerated and exponential deployment of environmental and climate solutions?
Well, if I would say in a very simple way, I said, let's walk the talk, because I think we know what is happening. We know what needs to be done. We now need to do it, you know. And I know sometimes it's possible to get everybody on board. I mean, when I mean on board, I mean on the same exact point and the same direction. But it's not always possible. And then if you are a leader, you have to make decisions. You try to put everyone on board. You try to show how positive is also on the economic side, that it could be rentable, that there could be new opportunities, as I mentioned before. But sometimes people just get stuck with business as usual, you know? So that you have to take decisions, you have to move forward, and afterwards, I think people realize that this is the right thing to do and the smart thing to do. Probably what we were speaking before is that environmental ministers should speak a bit more the financial language and should make a case not only on the environment, but also on the positive externalities that it can have. Because there are many experiences that show that that is real. Let me give you one example. When we arrived to the government, energy in Chile was very expensive. It was a lot of, linked to coal, some hydro. But then we said, look, we had a fantastic desert with the highest solar radiation in the world. We have fantastic volcanoes. We have fantastic, wind places where we can have. So we started a very, very strong program on renewables. And really, and a lot of national and international investment came, and they're doing great. So everybody sees, and of course we brought down the price of energy, so also the industry is happy, and household also. So I think it's very important to ramp up, to be able to show, if possible, showcase that it is possible to have sustainable development, and that environment can be also taken care of.
So it's really strong leadership to create the right framework for also business action to get involved and to help deploy those solutions. I really love that you work so closely on the educational component, that young people got involved at a very early age. And in many cases, those are also the leaders, the new entrepreneurs, the actors that are building the new climate economy. So maybe, since we're on Facebook Live, what's your message for a younger audience? How can they be involved, and how can they ensure that their leadership helps build a low-carbon and resilient future?
Well, the principal message is we need you. We need young people to stand up for all these causes. They are naturally, very close to these causes. But we need people. We need people from children, youngsters at schools, at university. We need them to mobilize themselves, to organize, to get in touch with other young people, to make their voices being heard. But one of the things that young people always complain about is that usually leaders that are not that young don't listen to them, particularly when they don't vote, when they're younger. But I think if we can ensure that these young people really stand up in an organized way and build the biggest platform with different actors too. Because it can be young people, women, indigenous, different groups that are really caring for the environment and for the planet. And that will make their voices be heard. I'm sure that will be a great contribution, and I'm sure they will be very enthusiastic to do it.
Absolutely. So we've heard it from you, the former president of Chile, Michelle Bachelet. Thank you so very much for joining us. You've heard it that the new economy is within an environment. We are driving it to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, and young people will have a crucial role in advancing the technologies and the businesses that will help achieve these goals. Thank you so very much for joining us, and we've been live from Vietnam at the GEF Assembly. Keep on engaging with the hashtag GEF Live. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Thank
and
you.
please, let's walk the talk.